All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Headlines, where me and my co-host here, Steve, we take a look at what happened in the market this week, and then we dive into the charts to see what's really happening, because often the headlines are not telling you what's actually going on. So, big week this week, right? Apple announced new phones. We've got insane nuclear stuff going on. Me and Steve always seem to gravitate to the nuclear content. Also, the Fed cut rates pretty big and did so for the first time in years. So we're going to talk a little bit about the effect of all of that and what normally happens in markets. Doesn't mean it's going to happen this time, but we'll go into that. So far, I know you're doing great today, Steve, but overall, good week.
Yeah, it was kind of nice to come in today. I don't know if people were in the live session on YouTube that I do on Thursdays, but we spent a good half an hour going over this new nano nuclear sector that you and I have talked, a lot about.
Mhm.
And so we gave some names, and those names actually all came to life today. So
Well,
hallelujah.
let's just use that. Let's just hop right into that right away. So the idea is 3 Mile Island. Again, I'm Canadian. I have no idea where this is, but I guess there was a nuclear plant there that got shut down that is now getting rebooted. And the entire reason for it is that Microsoft signed this massive contract and said, if you turn this guy back on and you give it the power to us, we will buy this power for, right? They've already sorted out the kilowatt hours and all that kind of stuff. So Microsoft, and I guess this is just kind of pumping AI in general, is basically saying, okay, well, we need a lot of power with AI, and great way to get a whole lot of power on a very consistent basis as someone who worked as an energy trader for a short period of time. Oil is kind of consistent, gas is kind of consistent. Green energy or solar and wind isn't very consistent at all. Nuclear is very consistent. You know exactly the power output. You can turn dials and control it very frequently. So they know exactly what they need for power. They think nuclear is the best way to go. That is CEG is the direct beneficiary of that. That's what's, who's making the money the most and is up 14% because of it. But of course, this is kind of lighting the fire into the whole nuclear sector where people are finally waking up to the AI takes a lot of power. Where's a quick lever we can pull to increase our power output seems to be nuclear. I know you've been big on the small nuclear reactor deals, Steve. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that and which ones you're trading?
Yeah, well, I mean, people that have been watching us every Sunday, we've been talking about this for a couple months now, and Michael and I have been kind of on the story that the headline apparently just came out last night or whenever that came out, and that's the story. And you weave on top of the AI needs, the Bitcoin mining and other type of crypto mining. There's just a perfect storm of data centers being built. We talked about Elon Musk and the 24/7 construction of his robot slash AI data center that he's building. So these are all coming online so fast, and there's no way in hell that they're going to knock on the door of the local municipality and say, hey, we just want to plug into your local power grid.
Yeah.
So, as evidenced by that headline and the gap up in CEG that Michael just showed, price confirms the headline, but we've been talking about this for a few months. So it's kind of exciting to know that the crowd is slowly catching on. And I took home three names, as I mentioned yesterday in the session. Basically, SMR is the leader. They've got the most cash. They've got the most history behind them. They've got the nicest chart too. Actually, if you want to come over, you're welcome to.
Yeah.
Go
Grab that.
SMR and some big moves today. Here's the big move in general, and this kind of shows us the potential, I think, of what people had seen. Big push here. So, smart people before us were realizing that this was the case, and then a big blow off, nice trend, another big parabolic push. So, what is this telling us? It's telling us that this stock has the potential to move in that fashion. So, I was accumulating. Let me grab my pen. I was accumulating this name over the last couple days after actually playing this one and the next one coming up off this low. I took some profits because look at this. The 50-day SMA just does what it does. 5 days of resistance. But this was my accumulation area because I knew 10 SMA was coming up underneath. We got lucky. I got lucky. That headline came out overnight. and all of a sudden the 50 was gapped above. So SMR really has some clean sailing above, and I think not only fundamentally is that the most sound of the three, but technically it's off to a pretty good start. Good volume down here too. I haven't sold any. I did sell some of another one here, OKLO, this morning. Pushed above its 50, traded above it, and kind of got into this area up here. So that green line, I took some profit. I took 1/3 off the table. I'm going to let that one work. Same things going on here. Clean air. It's above all moving averages now. Next stop is probably this level up here. It looks to be about $9. And then NNE, another kind of low float, 17 million, small name. This one's wild. If we look at the intraday, it feels like someone was, all these spikes, right? All these intraday spikes. There was a seller just driving this price down, and then today it couldn't hold back. Nice run. Here's the 130 intraday. So I'm watching this. Have not sold any of this yet. So I came in long all three of these. Every now and then, a blind hog finds a pasture, or a squirrel finds a nut, as they say.
Well, and that's a lot of names, right? And there's nothing wrong with playing those names, especially if you want to research them. I don't know if it's just because I'm getting older, or I say this a lot, or there's just more ETFs out there. I'm loving the ETF market more and more as they get more and more specialized in some things. Because I have some SMR. That I took as well off. We can actually talk about this. The trade wave indicator before that, which is probably roughly lining up with exactly what Steve did, just right around this area right here. Trade wave triggered a buy signal, just showing that, hey, it's now above the moving averages, and the moving averages have changed in that direction. You can see last time trade wave gave a buy was way down here at like $5. And then if you got out where kind of I did when I was in this trade a little bit higher than that, it was like a $12, $13 exit on this candle right here. And now it's triggering that again. I'm using this more and more as a way to completely systematize my ideas. If I like XYZ, going as well. But I wanted to take a look at this NLR and just show that, hey, if you're interested in let's do a weekly chart. If you're interested in maybe kind of packing some away, and you don't want to try to get very specific on individual names, I think this is a really good way to do it. Where this NLR is just a basket of these names. So it has the NNE, it has the SMR, it has the CCJ, it has all of these different nuclear names just wrapped up in it. So if this nuclear story is going to continue, I think this is going to be a good beneficiary of. Me and Steve were talking in the green room before we got started. I picked a little bit up just in a retirement account at this kind of $70 area where you can see it was support before. I put a stop. That I think it was down in like 65 or something. I said, hey, I'm just going to, give this a little bit of a shot. If I'm right, I want to hold it for ever, because this is a really long-term play. And if I'm wrong, I'm out very quickly. So again, just another way to take a look at it if you don't want to play individual stock names to try to guess the winner of this. But yeah, nuclear seems to be doing fantastic, and we will be interesting to see, because now I think utilities and AI have been combined, and now I think nuclear and AI is also going to be. So I think positive AI headlines are now going to be positive for nuclear as a whole. I think negative AI headlines could hurt nuclear, but I think that's now kind of opened up the door to a lot of public perception saying, hey, if this AI is going to do everything that we think the AI is going to do, then we're going to need to be able to power it, right? Oh, you muted yourself there, Steve.
Yeah. One more is BWXT. People might want to take a look at. This is not a small cap. This is an
Okay.
established name, but they BWXT.
There's my dyslexia. There we go.
Uh-huh. This company is established already, and they seem to be able to discussing their willingness to pivot into the smaller modular reactor. So they would be a formidable competitor for any smaller cap names earlier. So kind of other side of the coin there for people, but another name nonetheless.
And look at that. That's a great monthly chart, right? So did nothing from 2018 all the way to 2023. Broke out, another little consolidation. Yeah, that from a long-term point of view, that's a really nice looking chart with a $9 billion market cap, they're already profitable. Yeah, so this and this is kind of how a lot of this is going to work, right? It's good to take the bet on the small guys because they have the most potential upside, but you have to watch them a little bit carefully. A guy like this who has what $50 million in cash and they're making money, things like that. This might be for those who have a slightly lower risk tolerance, but still believe the story, because you're not going to get these things just to completely implode overnight. Now, let's take a quick look at Apple's iPhone. And we have a new announcement. So, the 16, again, we were talking about this in the green room too, where if you look at the 16 versus the 15, not too much. Another AI play. I guess they've added, if you're going to need the 15 or the 16 are the only two that are going to get the kind of ChatGPT integration that they're working on. Uh, uh, they're saying that it's selling better than the other one. Other than that, I watched the event. There's a new button on it. It's supposed to be like a little camera side button. That's about it. So if you look at this compared to the 15, doesn't look that big. If you look at it like me and Steve were talking about compared to mine, who I think is like the 11 or the 12, that's the group they're going after. They call it these super cycles where there's people like me who wait, 4 or 5 years, and then we get another one. Seems to be like that's happening, which is finally good for them. Other than that, there wasn't anything really big in the announcement, but the stock seems to be actually doing fairly well, but still struggling with this overall resistance. So, what do you think of the announcement? What do you think of Apple stock there, Steve?
Well, I'm also in that super cycle. I just got noticed that the phone was paid off on the plan, and coincidentally, right about that same time, it starts to flicker like getting memory issues, and it's not as crisp and smooth as it was on day one,
Hmm.
like all machines go. So maybe that's by design. I don't know. I'm with you. It would be a pretty good upgrade from the 12 that I currently have. The stock chart to me is curious because you'll have to give me the details, but didn't they just say their sales were softening a little bit as you were, I guess that's what you were discussing. People might have been disappointed with lack of upgrades, but I thought I heard them say on that gap down was for a reason. There was news that day.
Yeah.
And my point is, people don't care. Apple, is a stock that is just. I'm not going to call it a cult. That's a bad word. I mean, it's a great product. I mean, they are a devoted group of people, and they are going to buy this thing until it doesn't work anymore. So
Well, and yeah, so this big gap that happened back here, this was Warren Buffett taking some. People thought that he kind of lost faith in the company. I don't know if you saw that. Maybe we do some of these reaction video guys.
I
You should
did see
check out
that. Yeah.
the video about him why he sold Apple, and basically him just saying, tax is really good right now. I don't know what they're gonna do with future administrations or whatever. He's like, I don't know if what the tax rate's going to be on my gains, so I'm just taking some of the money now while I can, and kind of see what's going on. So it wasn't an Apple specific play at all. So then it ended up pushing a little bit higher, and then yes, the initial reaction was fairly poor, but they actually just went on pre-sale yesterday. And the reason is because just like you, I'm getting the messages from my cell phone provider saying, "Hey, you should give us more money and upgrade your phone." And yeah, they just went on resale yesterday or pre-sale yesterday, and that's why this came out today. So the initial reaction didn't look too good, but we're seeing now with T-Mobile, which I guess is, I don't know if they're one of the biggest cell phone guys down there, saying that yeah, that it's doing better than the 15 was anyway. So this is one of those things where you're not going to know until 3 months time, the next earnings announcement. I know Apple stopped releasing how many phones that they sold in general. They just stopped doing that. They want it to forever. That was what you looked at on the Apple report, is how many phones did you sell, and they kind of wanted to get people away from that, so they stopped reporting. But so it's going to be all these anecdotes, kind of one way or the other, whether they're doing well or doing poorly. But for me as a technician, I think it's pretty obvious here, right? We've got a pretty prominent top here,
Mhm.
call it 235 or so. We've got another top here at 235. I think if it breaks 235, it's probably a good one to own. If you're under that, be a little bit cautious. We're getting a little bit overextended to get there. So ideally, we don't break right away. We hang out for a little bit and then go. That's all I'm thinking.
Got a cup and handle look to it as well.
Yeah. All right. Last but not least, don't worry, this won't be on the test, but I know it's not very pretty looking. What I did, the Fed cut rates. Everyone knew they were going to cut rates. The only question was how much. Was it going to be 25? Was it going to be 50? I think it was like 70% of the people thought it was going to be 50. That's what they did. So it wasn't really an insane event. The intraday chart, we can actually do this first. The intraday chart on the announcement day was, to me, absolutely hilarious that people actually traded this stuff. Where was it? Where it was just a nightmare. It just seemed like an unmitigated nightmare for people trying to trade, in which, uh, yeah, right here, that out of the way. Like, look at this. This was the announcement candle, and then just up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down to close pretty much flat or a little bit down from when it opened. I think it was down like 0.2% on the day. Just to show that the more an event is hyped up, the more of this nonsense you're probably going to see, and the less actual activity is going to happen. But, I know neither me nor Steve are really short-term intraday traders, but they had to have been having a bad time through all this. These candles are just huge and not going anywhere in the grand scheme of things. Um, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, if we're done with that topic and we're close to the end, I've kind of saved one for you.
Oh, I did want to go. I just want to go
Okay.
quickly over this first. So, again, this is just a chart of what happens down the road. I have heard this weird narrative online on my Twitter account of people just saying, when the Fed cuts rate, it's bad. It's always bad. And I think what they're just doing is they're looking at 2001 and 2007. So this is the date of when the Fed cut rates. This is 3 months later, 6 months later, 1 year later, 3 year later, 5 year later. Now, on average, the market's up 75% of the time 1 year later. You pick any point in history, 1 year later, 75% of the time the market's going to be higher from that point. So the fact that 1 year later you're up 80% of the time, that's not huge statistically significant, but it's kind of, you're up a little bit more. The fact that your average gain 1 year later is 15% higher from where it is, I think that's really interesting. And just look at some of these numbers, right? 39%, 25%, 17%, 27. I think the difference, if you go in and look at all of these, I haven't, but I think it's if the Fed is cutting rates while the market is selling off, that's probably a bad thing. And if the Fed is cutting rate to cool down the market, which, or as the market's moving higher, which is what they're doing now, that generally seems to be good. So again, it's one of those things. The headlines are, right, Fed cuts rates and it's always bad. This 2019, right? We're still up 11% a year later, which would be 2020, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, so most of the time, this is good for the market. Sometimes it isn't. It's just probabilities. Doesn't mean it's going to happen this way. But that's all I wanted to say about the rate cut, is that they did it. Everyone knew they were going to do it. Generally speaking, it's a good thing for the market. Now we care about whatever next earnings report or Fed nonsense comes out.
There's always something on the horizon.
Yeah.
So I was just going to ask you, what's going on with game, Michael?
GameStop?
Yeah, what's going on over there?
I don't know. What's up? A
It's
little
not going to
bit.
die. It's not going to die for you, Michael. It's never going to die. It's never going to go away. It's always going to be here.
But could you imagine being in this for this long and having absolutely nothing occur? Like, yeah, it's up.
Well, on the 15 minute, it looks more exciting than the daily. Yeah, but
Yeah, it's
it's just
prices
an
not
intraday move.
seen since 3 days ago.
I didn't see any news. I just saw it spike right before you and I came on, so I thought I'd save that.
Yeah, who knows? Is it a general? I always just take a look at the other meme stock. See, no, AMC is still, because that's
I
usually its
tried.
partner. If it's a meme
You
stock,
got to look at the intra. You got to look at the intraday to see how it tried and failed.
but
Like,
these are just, what's the Brian Shannon thing? If they don't scare you out, they'll wear you out. Right
yeah,
now it seems like we're in that neighborhood where AMC has not moved 1 inch forever. And then
no.
GameStop, again, I think you're in this scenario that you're in going to be in with AMC, where another 20 million shares the company unloaded onto retail during the last earnings report. So now, if you're buying this, you got to know that the company is now aggressively dumping shares on your head. So again,
I knew I'd
just
get you going.
a grind, but
All right,
trying to
that's a
save
good one.
lives out here, Steve. That's all I'm trying to do.
Hey,
S-
your intentions are authentic.
any any thing to leave the people with? Any sneak? I know we gave preview a couple times for trade of the week. Anything that you're looking at here? I gotta say, I know you do the trade of the week, but SMR looks a little bit maybe overdone. But when you showed me this NNE
Oh,
chart, which I hadn't looked at, it's looking kind of
well,
nice here.
NNE's a little. I mean, we'll see how it goes, but I'm thinking BWXT, that last one I dropped in, because that's a
BWXT,
safer call. That's a
and I
safer call for people, and it's a nicer chart.
and that monthly
I mean,
chart I do.
it's a nice chart. BWXT.
BWXT, yeah, don't do that
So
other
I
that
don't
other.
know. By
Yeah.
between now and the close of the day, who knows what the trade of the week will be? But I just wrote that down as we were speaking.
Well, we're always talking about trade wave, and
Oh,
again, I'm
whoa!
loving. You all right?
Yeah, yeah. No, we're getting an unseasonable dumping of rain here in San Diego, which I haven't seen in 6 months. So very odd. I'm gonna go play in it. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so we were just talking trade wave. Again, I'm loving the systematizing of my ideas. It could be another one, just printing a buy ticket right here. So that could be another one to take a look at. But well, listen, thank you all as always for coming. For oh, I think the green screen's gonna
He's not gonna like that.
not gonna like that.
It's radar. It's rain.
Good. We're actually hoping
All
for
right.
some out here. It's been dry, but anyway, guys, thanks for coming by. If you've been here this long, again, I think we've earned a like, thumbs up, all that kind of stuff. Appreciate it very much. I look forward to doing these. I hopefully you guys look forward to watching them. Steve, don't get like flooded away into. I don't know if floods are a thing that happen over there. You're mostly desert, but be safe, man.
All right.
Talk to
See
you
you
soon.
later.